Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Chapter Tactics. I am Magikarp Usefly, also known as Matt, and with me today we have one of our regular co-hosts here, John P. Hey, John P.
Howdy doody.
Yeah, boy. And then we also have a Raph.
Hi, everybody.
Yeah, dude, this is the first time because Raph is usually not with us when we're doing Chapter Tactics.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's usually behind the computer. But today we have a great conversation that he wants to join in on. We're going to be talking about the fight phase and how to get the most out of the combat phase, because a lot of people kind of just dismiss the combat phase. And now that the GW terrain that we've all seen, how it's played, it's brought melee armies back onto the forefront. And so with that, we need to go over how the fight phase works and what makes it so good, how to make it stronger, and everything like that. I personally love the fight phase. Do you guys love the fight phase?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. I know that John P loves the fight phase just because you play Space Wolves a lot.
It is great. There's so many fun things you can do in the fight phase that you just simply miss out on if you don't fight.
Yeah. And Raph, being a newer player, how are you enjoying the fight phase? Which phase do you like more, the fight phase or the shooting phase?
So in my earlier games, I liked the shooting phase more. But now I Black Templars, I think they like fighting more than shooting, and so I've tailored my list around fighting more, and it's brought me more success recently. So I'm liking it. I'm not advanced or anything, but it's been fun hitting people and smacking them.
Listen, all right, the fight phase, you punch them with your fists. In the shooting phase, you're punching them with bullets. So it's the same thing, right?
Same thing.
Yeah, same thing. I think that the biggest thing about the fight phase, though, is that, like I said, with the GW terrain, with the way that it's sectioned off, or the way that it's made now, when it comes to their events, is that there's lots of line of sight blocking terrain. It makes it a lot harder for shooting armies to really activate during the first two turns. And so with a lot of melee armies, it makes it easier for them to get into close combat. And so even if you are a shooting army, you're going to have to learn how to do the fight phase and how to get the most out of it. Even if you're a shooting army, it just benefits every single army, no matter what, except maybe Tau. And that's it. It maybe just them. I don't know. But like your guards, like Astra Militarum, they still do the fight phase. You know, there's lots of armies that still want to participate in the fight phase because you have to hold those objectives.
Yeah, a lot of ways to be a little sneaky, conniving little dude that gets on objectives when you don't expect it to. But I mean, we'll go over all that.
Yeah, definitely. So what we do have is a Did You Know? I got a nice Did You Know today. This one is revolving around the Grey Knights, and this is just like a little lore piece of how the Grey Knights came to be, kind of like what they are, what they do. But it's just a small snippet of their overall lore. So, Grey Knights, did you know they are the secret and mysterious 666th chapter of Astartes, made to kill demons of the warp and anyone who pledges their allegiance to the gods of chaos? They lived on Titan, which is a moon that revolves around Saturn, and that's where Malkador stored 8 of the most dedicated to the Imperium Astartes that were aware of the threat from the warp. So he basically took them, brought them onto Titan, and then during that time, or during the Horus Heresy, that world of Titan was ripped from reality and brought into the timeless realm of the warp, where it sat there for years in regular space-time. But obviously, it was unknown how long they spent in the actual timeless space of the warp before eventually reappearing during the second founding. They were engineered using the gene seed directly from the Emperor, and that's why every Grey Knight is a potent psyker. They live in secrecy. They mind wipe anyone who witnesses them using Arcana to destroy chaos. And basically, they just really want to destroy chaos. That's like their whole thing, is that they want to kill chaos. That's why they have weapons called demon hammers and things like that. They can also break steel with their bare hands.
Oh my God.
They're pretty strong.
Dude, that's intense.
That's crazy. I got stripped like Men in Black vibes from all that.
Oh yeah, definitely Men in Black vibes.
Mind wipe, and like I also never realized that they just were absent during the Horus Heresy.
Yeah,
Like,
they just weren't there.
yeah, it's just something I never thought about.
Yeah, they just
Wow.
never did anything. But yeah, but they came back during the second founding. That's when the Grey Knights chapter was like basically founded. Was during that time. That's when people started realizing more about them and all that stuff. But yeah, Grey Knights, cool guys. Break stuff with steel.
Yeah, hands.
Bare hands.
With bare hands,
Bare
dude.
hands.
Bare
Imagine, imagine if they had a weapon that was made out of
Yeah.
steel. Like, what could they break with that?
Could you imagine if there's like a mechanic in the future where like you could build off a piece of a building and then a grenade could pick it up and turn into a hammer?
Like
This looked
forge
like-
it, forge it on
yeah.
the spot.
Forge it on the spot.
Just start bending it like it's a balloon animal.
Yes, a balloon animal.
Just make stuff out of it.
That'd be insane. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. All right. So that's their lore. So now we can go on to the main topic here. But before we do that, this show is brought to you by frontlinegaming.org, where you can get amazing game mats for not just your 40K games, but almost any tabletop game out there. Purchase miniatures at a discount and join some of the largest 40K events in the industry. They also have the largest 40K podcasting network in the business with shows like Signals from the Frontline, Chapter Tactics, 40K Game Changers, Grim After Dark, 40K Stat Center, The Thursday Show, and so much more. That's frontlinegaming.org, or you can click on the link in the description of this podcast on all the social media goodies. Plus, tickets for the SoCal Open are being sold as of right now. So go ahead and pick that up before they're all sold out. They are being sold out very, very fast. So go check that out, SoCal Open, which we will be at. So if you want to come and say hi to us, you can do that as well when you go to the SoCal Open. Dude, have you guys gotten your list ready for SoCal?
I don't even know what army I'm running.
Hopefully I get the Launchbox rumors is true, and I'll have the Codex supplement in September, and then I will know what list I bring. Or hopefully, no. What list I bring.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see. We'll see.
Got a little topic overview for you guys. If you guys want to close your eyes, if you are driving, please don't close your eyes. Here we go. The combat phase is commonly known as your second movement phase, and with GW terrain becoming more and more widely available at tournaments, it's time to break down how to do the combat phase correctly and get the most out of it. Boom. There we go. It's a decent start. I literally wrote that like 2 minutes ago.
Let's go.
Yeah, so what makes the fight phase so important?
Why?
Why?
Yeah. So, Jumpy, do you want to start off?
Yeah, so I guess obviously Ninth is an objective-based game. If your opponent beats you to said spot and gets onto the objective, you're gonna have to walk up to them and fight them for it in melee combat. To put it simply.
Oh, well, I know what you're saying.
I mean, but I mean, there's more than that. But like, simply put, like, you're gonna have to fight for objectives, and the best way to do that is to fight on the objective. That way, when you kill them, you're on the objective, and you can take the objective.
You can control it.
Yeah, but if you simply just shoot the opponent off the objective, it's no one's objective, and no one scores points for it.
Yeah, and I think that's the big thing about melee combat nowadays is that when it comes to melee combat with 9th edition, it's so important because you need to be on those center objectives, right? You can't just hunker down, wait inside your deployment zone, and then just kind of hope for the best because like most deployment zones, you'll maybe have 1 or 2 objectives in your deployment zone. You have to battle for those middle objectives, right? And so being able to bring units that can skirmish and actually fight for those middle objectives that aren't just guardsmen or something that will just plink off shots, you want to get them into that area. And then even if you were to control it, you have to have units that are also durable enough and can fight hard enough to countercharge when people try to battle you for that center objective as well. And that's kind of like what makes the fight phase so important because you need to be able to know how to control more bodies on the board, how to make it so then your opponent can't do it, and then also couple it in with your shooting phase, because you can shoot stuff as much as you can, but there's so much line of sight on the board nowadays that it's hard for you to just shoot things off the board without being retaliated on, because if you have line of sight on somebody, they probably also have line of sight on you.
Mm.
Yeah.
And you better, if you shoot at something, you better kill it. Otherwise, they might just kill you back.
Yeah. Yeah.
That makes sense. Can you elaborate on the countercharging thing? That didn't make sense to me.
Yeah. So so let's say that you have like a group of we'll say 10 guardsmen, right? that go up to the board and they're sitting on that center objective, or like one of the 2 center objectives that are on the field. Okay. So if they're sitting there, that means that your opponent, they're going to be in the same amount of range as you when it comes to those objectives, right? No man's land is about 24 inches wide. If you have your units there, then yeah, you control it at the end of your turn, but you need to be able to control it until the next phase of your turn, right? Because that's when you score points on your primary. And then during that time, if it's your opponent, when it's your opponent's turn, they could just charge that 10-man guardsman squad, and then you don't get those points, right? Because they just fold like paper.
They fold. Yeah. Guardsmen.
Yeah. So you have to be prepared to be able to understand how to do stuff with counter charges. And you could do that even with guardsmen to out obsec your opponent. And I think that the best way to do that is that if you have like one squad of guardsmen that stands on the outside aura of the objective, because you have 10 models, right, that you can use, you can push that towards the edge of the objective, right? So then your opponent has to fight those guardsmen in order to get onto the rest of the objective. And then
I see.
And then you could just have another set of guardsmen in the back row, right? Unless they do like a multi-charge, which you can probably like finagle a little bit. Unless they do a multi-charge against those 2 units, then what's happening is that they can wipe that squad, but who cares? You still have you still have your models on that objective that can still get you more OPSEC than your opponent can.
Gotcha.
Yeah. John,
Cool.
do you want to elaborate on that at all?
I mean, like you said, it's like you set up a unit to it's kind of like a sacrificial lamb.
Yeah.
It's there. Your opponent has to come react to it, kill it, and then once that unit comes in, you're like, haha, time to set up my actual unit.
Yeah.
To kill. Yeah.
Also, it's like when you did your wolves thing in our game. You brought it into the center, and then as soon as I went and killed you, you killed me back.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right? Or you charged me with your dudes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
It's like a counter charge.
Yeah, it turns, especially if you're like 2 melee, it's like Space Marines for the Space Marine, it turns into like a whole like mind bait game. Like, oh, all right, I'm gonna throw in this sacrificial unit, I'm gonna throw in this one, and then like you're just waiting for like whoever throws in their Vanguard vets first.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like in League of Legends where like the winner of like a battle is usually the person that ults second. The person, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Who can bait who into doing their thing
yeah.
first,
Like in the
first.
Zed versus Zed matchup, whoever ults the other Zed first is the one that loses.
Yep.
That's basically what it is, right? Yeah.
If you do it first, you better kill it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the other person can react.
Cool. So I've been reading around about fight phase and stuff. That I keep hearing the words wrapping and trapping. What is that, and what's the idea behind those 2 things?
John P, do you want to go?
I think you would know better since you play NIDS.
Yeah. So, wrapping and trapping is something that not a lot of people tend to do when it comes to 40K, either because they're being too lazy or that they just don't know how to do it well enough. Wrapping and trapping, it's when you take a unit and you kind of just encircle an entire unit or one single model. Because when you have 3 models, like the best way to think about this is like a triangle, right? So if you have one model in the middle and then you have 3 models on the sides, then and they're all encircling that one singular model in the middle of them, there's no way that model can actually move through any of those models without pushing one of your models, right? So because of that, they can't actually leave that combat, you know?
Yeah, fall back or whatever, right?
Yeah, they can't fall back. And
You would have to use the stratagem.
Yeah, they would
Or
have to
unless
use
you're Grey
Desperate
Knight, so you
Breakout.
can just move them, right? Teleport them out.
Yeah, you could just teleport them out. Or if you have like fly or something, you can
But, yeah.
you can move out or anything like that. But if you're up against something that doesn't have fly and you wrap and trap something, not only does it make it so then that unit can't fall back, it also protects the unit that is wrapping and trapping that unit because they can't get shot at.
They can get shot at.
Yeah.
Smart.
Yeah. And that's what makes wrapping and trapping so good. Like, not only can you do it so then you can make it so then a unit can't fall back, you make it so then that particular unit that you're using can't get shot at. So it's very important to do that with things like gene stealers. It's very important to do that with things like that can die to a swift breeze but hit like a truck. I guess maybe sanguinary guard. But
Yeah.
yeah, like stuff like that. It's a great way to make it so then your opponent can't do anything. John P, do you want to talk about wrapping and trapping?
Yeah. Let's see. I mean, wrapping and trapping is typically done in. I mean, obviously in the fight phase, but it's like during like the piling and consolidations, a lot of people just like activate, just get their units in just to get all the attacks in, but they're not considering like everything, like being able to actually surround the unit so that they can't fall back. Especially with things like a transport.
Yeah,
I'd say like this, like you're able to charge a transport, and then there's like guys inside. If you're able to wrap and trap that transport, and you kill the transport, then your enemy doesn't get all the models on the inside because I think they have to use what's that stratagem called? Desperate Breakout.
I don't think it's
No,
yeah,
it's not Desperate Breakout.
I forgot. I know what you're talking about, but I forgot what it was called. The one where
Yeah.
they can disembark from a model or a transport from like 6 inches away instead of 3 inches.
Yeah. Emergency disembark. Thank you.
That one.
Yeah, emergency disembark. But yeah, they would have to use that stratagem in order to get the guys out inside. Otherwise, you just lose all those models. Oh, I was gonna say, I know Ralph's been looking into using impulsors, so this is something that is very useful for good knowledge for him to know.
Yeah, definitely,
If his
definitely.
transport gets wrapped, then his guys inside are not gonna have a good time.
Yeah, and at that point, you're making your opponent spend the CP, right?
Yeah,
in order
exactly.
to even do that. So that's also really, really good. And then this is also especially good if you have something like fall back and charge, right? So Harlequin players love doing it where they could just wrap something if they aren't able to kill it, and then on their next turn, they were safe from being shot at, so then they could just fall back and then charge something else instead. Things that move 12 inches, like your Vanguard vets, they love wrapping and trapping if they can fall back and charge. So like things like that, it's just amazing to do. Honestly, but obviously, you know, when a Vanguard vet charges a squad, it's probably dead.
It's gonna die.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
Yeah, but then that also comes with efficiency on what you want to do, right? So like if you're sending in this unit that automatically kills something no matter what it touches, but then they're able to get shot at next turn, is that efficient enough for you? Right? Like, did they make up their points enough for killing this squad before getting shot off next turn because they can't actually survive because, you know, they didn't wrap and trap something. They could just get fully shot at. And that's something that you really need to take into consideration. So when you're doing a fight phase, sometimes if you know that you're going to overkill a squad, instead of just overkilling the squad, when you do your pile-ins and consolidations and stuff, you keep a couple of them out so then you don't actually kill the squad. So then you're still able to wrap and trap them. Yeah, you don't kill them, but you are protecting that huge blob of units that's so expensive
Getting
that
shot
you
at.
want to, from getting shot at. Exactly.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Cool. Just a quick follow up to this. Is this something that, well, as a newer player, is this something, the wrapping and trapping, is that something you newer players or players in general should be or always
Constantly
looking
doing?
out to do? Or is there specific times we should keep in mind to try to do those tactics?
Yeah. John P, do you want to go?
Yeah, I was just gonna say it should, especially if it's something that you don't want dying to shooting, you should be always looking to do this, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Just protecting those guys from shooting, keeping them in melee combat, also reduces the efficiency of like your enemy. Maybe that's the only thing that's like in line of sight, and they have nothing else they can shoot at. So and then they just have like this big shooting unit that isn't being useful that turn. So
Yeah, it's not
yeah,
killing the stuff that it wants to kill.
exactly.
Yeah, and that's what makes things like Slanesh Fiends so powerful.
Yeah, no
Because
fallback.
yeah, since something can't fall back, whatever you charged along with the Fiends, even if you were to pile into that squad or consolidate into that squad or anything, since Fiends make it so then things can't fall back unless they know fly, then that means that whatever you tagged with that unit is going to be safe from any shooting, right?
Yeah.
And that's like it's
Wow.
just like basically tar pitting. You're tar pitting something, right? And like you don't even have to do it where it's you're saying, oh, this unit needs to kill this particular unit. You can use wrap and trapping in order to just completely shut down things like your Balsari Skitari if you're able to get into combat with them. Anything that like deals a lot of damage. I believe, Raph, we were playing a game when you were playing with a Land Raider, right?
Yeah, against your Quince. I remember you trapping my
Yeah,
my
yeah.
Crusader.
Yeah, I didn't want it to shoot at anything.
Yeah.
So like you could just throw garbage units at these really strong vehicles or these really strong firing vehicles, right? And you can just have them just trap them inside, put in like 10 guardsmen or like 30 termagants or something, and just tar pit them. So then that way they can't fall back. But you're making it so then they can only shoot at those termagants because there's nothing else that they can shoot at, right? There's
Yeah.
so many different things that you could do with wrapping and trapping that just makes
Yeah.
it so nice.
And then bonus points if you're this all happens to be happening on an objective marker.
Yeah, exactly. And then also it like what's funny is that if you use something like Desperate Breakout, I believe it's on a 1 a model dies, right? I think that's how it's worded, or is it they take a mortal wound?
Oh man, I forgot Desperate Breakout's 2 CP.
Yeah, it's very expensive.
Yeah.
And you can only do
Roll-
it for 1 unit. So if
Yeah.
you do it, if you wrap and trap 2 different units, they can only select 1 to use that Desperate Breakout ability.
So it says roll 1d6 for each model in that unit for a result of 1. One model in that unit of your choice is destroyed.
Yeah, so if you actually wrap and trap something that's like multiple vehicles, like let's say that you wrap and trap Castellan robots and they use Desperate Breakout, if you roll a 1, one of them's going to die. And then you're also spending 2 CP on top of that. Like, is that worth it at that point? You know, a lot of people think that's a bad, or that Desperate Breakout makes wrapping and trapping useless, but really think about that.
That's a 100-point model just exploding and
Yeah,
not
just
getting
dying.
any efficiency out of it. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you spent 2 CP on top of that. Like, come on.
Exactly.
You know, yeah. Yeah, that's wrapping and trapping, I guess. There's a lot more that we could talk about for it, but we can move on.
Nice. The next thing I still have trouble with is with charges. Like how and when should I be declaring my charges? Like I sometimes go too ooga booga sometimes, and I kind of just, if they're within 12 inches, I'm gonna charge them regardless.
Yeah, well, you play Black
free
Templars.
reroll. Yeah,
you got free
reroll.
rerolls. So
Well, yeah, but like
Yeah.
I at least in the past couple of games I played, why, or I just do it out of habit just because I'm in range, but should I be doing it more strategically, or what, or what am I doing wrong? Because I've lost like 3 of my 4 last games, I think. Just going ooga booga.
yeah. John P, you want to take this?
Yeah, I think I guess when declaring charges, you should always charge with your, the unit that you know will kill the unit first. That way you're not just charging and then dying in response. That's probably one of the worst feelings ever in Warhammer 40k, charging something and dying. But yeah, I would say charge with a unit that will handle either kill or not be killed by the unit that you're charging. If that unit fails, then you should probably just end your charge phase and move on.
Yeah.
And then I would also say try to just pace yourself with your charges. Like maybe you only need to send in 1 unit. And then if that unit just happens to wipe it out, only that 1 unit is visible in line of sight. But if you happen to charge like 2 or 3 units in, and then you just wipe that unit, now you have 3 units, like 2 or 3 units that are visible line of sight. If your opponent has shooting, they'll just mow down them with shooting if they have good shooting.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's all about like I guess like cycling and just like sending them in waves, like like you're playing against like tower defense.
Yeah.
At the beginning you send in your smaller waves, then you send in the big wave.
Yeah. Because like what you also need to understand is that there is still interrupt. You can spend your opponent can spend 2 command points to interrupt, right? So if you are charging multiple times, what you're doing is that you're even if you're just like this one's going to charge, this one's going to charge, this is going to charge, blah blah blah. You're just doing charges just willy nilly without thinking about it. What's happening is that you're making it so then your opponent can just get a free easy kill on a key unit. Like if you have if you're sending in 2 key units in a multi charge against 2 units that can probably punch back, one of them is going to interrupt. And so you could lose like a key unit just because you're just like ooga booga, everything's going to charge, right? And then on top of that, not only are you giving them a free way to kill a key unit or just to kill off chaff, you're also giving them 6 inches of movement, right? If you aren't touching base with them when you charge, if you never say something like, my intent is to touch base with this unit, right? If you never say that, then they could just surf those units. They can surf the unit when they interrupt, move 3 inches for the pile in, kill it, and then move another 3 inches again. So and then after that, that unit's free to do whatever it wants, and then you could just move them again. So you're giving them a free movement phase basically if you just keep doing willy-nilly charges all the time. Like, yeah, you might kill something, but is that really worth it compared to what's going to happen in your opponent's next turn? Unless you are absolutely demolishing them in the fight phase, and it's like you brought in like the Vanguard vets have charged, Blade Guard vets have charged, I don't know, like a Land Raider has charged or something. I don't know.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, like Matt said, if you're charging with a bunch of units, you better make sure that they can withstand 1 round of combat with whatever you're charging. Otherwise,
stay away.
Otherwise, just pace yourself. Because like Matt said, you're giving them the 6 inches of free movement, and then it's their turn.
Yeah, exactly.
and then they can do whatever they want.
Yeah, with whatever the models that they have, and then if they have to fall back and charge, then who cares, right?
Yeah.
Like, So when you're declaring your charges, you just have to be aware of what's gonna, and then you also have to be aware of what has fight last and what doesn't, because like that's a huge part of 40K right now when it comes to melee combat is fight last. So if you are charging, you just need to be aware of like, does this have stench bats? Does this have fight last? Is there a way that you can get fight last on this unit? Yes, no. What's going on here? Should I stay away from them? Or anything like that. So you just have to be aware of that.
Yeah, I think one of the questions I always ask an opponent is just like, do you have any ways of manipulating the fight phase, like fight last or fight first, etc., stuff like that.
Yeah. Are you Death Guard? Do you have stench bats?
Yeah. Okay. Can you keep that unit away from me?
Yeah.
keep that one in the backfield objective, please.
So in those cases where they do have a way to do fight first or fight last, what do you do, or what is the general tactic to get around that?
Yeah.
You shoot them first, or you just wait till they come to you?
Yeah. John P, do you want to go?
If I ever see a unit that has like fight last, obviously number 1 priority is to not fight it. If a smart opponent will never put a unit that has fight last in line of sight of shooting, but if they do, that's your shot right there.
Yeah, that's your shot. Kill them off. Yeah,
kill them in shooting. But
priority target.
Yeah, exactly. But if you ever do have to end up fighting something that has fight last, it's gonna probably be a unit that's really good in melee. You're gonna have to send 2 units at that unit. 2 units that if 2 units that can both handle that unit, or that unit that has fight last, and hopefully if they split their attacks, they won't kill both units. I highly doubt that's possible, but yeah. But yeah, you're gonna have to sack a unit, and then hopefully the unit that died. Hopefully the second unit can kill the unit that has the fight last.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
If there's anything that has fight last, and if you don't also have access to fight last, then what you're gonna have to do is just charge 2 units into them and then just sack a unit, just like what John P said. That's the best way that you're gonna be able to do it, because no matter what happens, he's going to kill at least one of those units. No matter what. No matter what, with Fight Last, you are trading down if you also do not have Fight Last. You are absolutely trading down because you have to trade one unit completely against another unit, because if anybody has Fight Last, it's probably going to be next to either Blade Guard Vets, next to Death Shroud Terminators, anything that can kill an MSU squad of like either MEQs or almost anything else that you throw at them. Fight First is a lot easier to play against, though. Fight First is like so simple. You just charge once.
Yeah,
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, because the way Fight First works is that it's essentially a free counter-offensive. So like if you, let's say you charge in 2 units against their 2 units that both have Fight First, you would fight with your charging units first. You would alternate essentially. So it'd be you, them.
Yeah. That's what makes Slanesh really strong, right? Or demons, or like Slanesh demons really strong, is because Fight First by itself, if it's just on like one model, garbage, just useless. If you're paying for that relic to give you a Fight First, do not just drop it. Save your CP. It's terrible. But if you have like an aura of Fight First, or if you have a whole army like Slanesh that has Fight First, that's when Fight First actually becomes incredibly good. Because like John P said, you have to alternate whenever you're fighting them. And then like if you're Slanesh, then, you know, they have ways to make it so that you can't fall back. So then on their turn, you can't even fight them first. They get to hit you first.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah. which is that's a fun time. It's a fun time. I love Slanesh demons. It's so much fun
for you. Put that for you.
Yeah, it's a fun time for me, not for you guys.
Wow. Damn. So Fight Last, Fight First. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Cool. So also, as a newer player, when I do declare charges, I know Tao gets free Overwatch.
Yeah.
And then other people have been doing Overwatch. And it does tend to kill some of my units. How do I prevent, get the least amount of casualties when I'm declaring my charges due to Overwatch?
Yeah. So Tal does a lot of overwatching, but then also even Space Marines can do a lot of overwatching. I think that Salamanders, they can spend a CP to have a unit jump in to also do an overwatch. So like aggressors doing overwatch, it's insane because they can just like auto hit all of their flamers and then spend a CP as well to have them jump in to do an overwatch. So like they can melt an entire unit. It's disgusting.
So don't charge into flamers.
Yeah, never charge into flamers. Try your best.
Yeah. In addition to salamanders, Ultramarines can also do it. It's like a greater good.
Yeah, it's like a for the greater good for free. Or not for free, but you pay for it. The best way to do that, if you're going up against something that's going to overwatch, you either it depends on what you want to do, right? Do you want to kill the unit that is overwatching, or do you just want to tag them, right? Because if you tag them, then they can't fall back and shoot unless they have a strat for it, or you're turning off their shooting when you tag them when you go into melee combat with them. The best way to do it though is that if you're charging something that has like a flamer, or you're charging something that you're afraid of their overwatch, you don't want your key unit to die, you charge a garbage unit into them first, something that you don't care about dying. So then that way it soaks up the overwatch if they even decide to use it, and then you can charge with your key unit.
With a key unit. I see.
Yeah.
Or you could try to bait out their overwatch, see if they use it elsewhere. Maybe you might save that unit that you're scared of charging for last, and maybe they might just for lack of a better term, use the Overwatch stratagem too early.
Yeah, like not use it correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can definitely bait it out that way as well. Make it so then they can't use it, because you can only, unlike in 8th edition, you can only Overwatch once unless you're Tau, right? So they have to pick it correctly. So if you have 2 key units that are going to be doing charges and both of them have like trash units right next to them, then you charge one with a trash unit, and then you charge the next one with a trash unit. And then from there, then you just charge them with their you ooga booga, like what you were saying
You
before.
ooga booga.
Yeah, you ooga
with
booga. That's like
the
that's
Okay.
one of the times when you ooga booga.
Gotcha. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
But don't send in vets first. Otherwise you're gonna overwatch that.
Yeah. Don't send
most
in
likely.
key units first, or else they're
Yeah,
gonna
yeah, yeah.
overwatch you to death. You send in a trash unit, or you send in something that you know is gonna survive the amount of shots, like a big tanky monster or something like that.
Dreadnought.
Yeah, like a dreadnought. Yeah, most of the time something's not gonna kill a dreadnought in Overwatch, unless maybe your sisters. Then maybe, then you could maybe kill something in Overwatch, or aggressors, because aggressors just kill stuff. They don't care.
Got it. Cool. You mentioned tagging. What does that mean? How do I do that? Or would I still have to charge to tag them?
Yeah. So, when you tag something, so let's say that you there's a unit that you don't want to have you over, or that you don't want to Overwatch, but you have no trash units, right? So what you do instead is that you still want to turn off that unit that can do that huge Overwatch, right? You want them to get shut down, because the only ways that you can shoot after being tagged is either if you are a vehicle, because of you can shoot into combat, or if you have fallback and shoot, or if they're pistols, right? Those are the only those are the only ways. Okay. So what you do is that if they have mispositioned and there's a unit right next to that, and they don't have something like for the greater good, what you do is that you charge the other unit first. You don't charge the one that you're afraid of overwatching. Yeah. So you charge the other unit first, and then from there, hopefully you kill whatever it is, or do whatever you want to do. And when you charge, you clearly say, I am not touching base. It's all about intention. When it comes to the fight phase, you have to be clear about your intentions, or else people can game you, right? You say, I'm charging this unit. All right, here's my charge move. Okay. And then with your charge move, when you charge, you can move any distance that you want, right? As long as you end up with an engagement range of that unit, then you can move. If you have a 12-inch charge, right? You don't have to just end right next to that unit. Like if it's only 5 inches away and you get 12 inches, you don't have to end 5 inches away or 5 inches closer. You can use that entire 12 inches to move around, right?
Move around them. Yeah.
So what you're doing is that you charge them. You say, after you're done doing your move, you say, it is not my intention, or I am not touching base. And then during that time, you use your pylons and your consolidations to then get closer to the enemy unit that you want to tag. Exactly. And then once you tag that unit, boom, you're good to go. You shut off that unit. You've used your fight phase well enough to where not only did you deal damage to one unit, but now you also shut down another unit's power, like shooting power.
Yep. Yeah. So in the pylon phase, you can actually use that extra pylon movement to get within engagement range of another unit, the one that you did not charge.
Yeah.
As long as that's the closest.
Did not know that.
Yeah. So let's say you have you're going against like Imperial Guard, and they have 2 Manticores within like 12 inches of each other, and you have your Vanguard vets. You only need like a 4 to get in, but you roll like a 12. The first Vanguard vet could probably fly like 12 inches, get closer to the second Manticore that you didn't declare a charge on, and as long as you have one unit or one model that's in engagement range of the first Manticore, you could pile in with the guy that jumped way further, and he has to pile in to the closest enemy unit, which would be the other Manticore, the second Manticore, the further away one. Yeah. So you could pile in there, and then you could tag the other one, and you have 2 Manticores tagged up that can't be shooting. Yeah.
And then it'll still be okay as long as your unit's in coherency or maintains coherency, right?
Yeah. Actually, during your pile-in phase, you don't have to stay in coherency.
What?
Yeah. So when you move a unit, you have to stay within coherency, right? During your combat phase, when you're piling in, you don't have to stay within your coherency check, right? You only do your coherency check at the end of the battle, once it's done at that point, right?
The battle round.
Yeah. At the end of the or at, not the end of your turn, right?
I think it's morale.
Yeah, during your morale phase. Yeah.
Okay. So tag them. You can be out of unit coherency, and then you can consolidate after you're done piling
and then go back into unit coherency afterwards. So you can finagle stuff around where you can just be like, okay, this unit obviously you have to be able to go back into coherency, or else you're gonna start losing models that way. But yeah, you can break your coherency during your combat phase, and then during your morale phase, fix it so then it goes back to normal. Yeah.
Wow, never thought of that.
Do you know what's another big brain move? Is that
Yeah.
so? Let's say that you want to stay outside of. Let's say that you get tagged in combat, right? What you can do is, if they kill a model, you can actually take a model from the middle, because you could choose which model dies, right? So you could take models from the middle to break that coherency. You do your morale check. After you do your morale check, then you have to do your coherency check, right? So what you can do is that you can pull models from like the middle or from somewhere where you're going to break coherency. And then when you do your coherency check, you sacrifice another model or the two models to fix coherency. And then from there, you don't
units?
from that same unit. So
sorry.
yeah. So then that way you don't have to fall back. You're already outside of engagement range at that point. Big brain.
Big brain.
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 Never done that. Just curious. Have you guys tried that tactic before?
Yeah, Matt did it on me, and I was like, "Oh my god,
Oh,
that was insane."
Yeah. Because you don't have to you just, who cares? They're gone. They die. Whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, obviously don't do that with like your Terminators.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah. Bigger. Yeah.
Yeah. But if you have like chaff and you don't want to stay within combat, you could definitely pull outside of coherency, and then from there stay outside so that you don't have to fall back and charge or anything like that. You could just move forward.
Just move
Yeah,
forward.
and then it also frees up that unit to be shot at
Yep. Yeah.
by your guys.
Man, that is smart.
Easy money.
Wow.
What you can also do, like we're talking about a lot of ways that you could be offensive in your fight phase, but there's also a lot of ways that you could be offensive while you're being defensive.
On
right?
defense. Yeah.
Yeah. So what you can actually do is that if you go up against somebody that is trying to get the most amount of movement from their fight phase, right? What you can actually do is if one unit is in combat with another unit, right? And they strung out the rest of their models, you can just simply bring another unit next to that, next to them. So let's say that, So let's say that you have a model in the middle, or you have a unit in the middle that's in combat with a unit that's on the left side of me, I guess, right? Or on the left side of them. You can take another unit, move it closer to the edge of where they're trying to string out their units. And then at that point, that unit, even though they would have to break coherency when they do pile-ins and consolidations, because pile-ins and consolidations are by a model per model basis. So if you do it that way, that means that unit can't really move very far at all, because they're trapped between two units. They're closer to a different unit than they are with another unit, right? So you can, so that's also a pretty easy way to make it so then a unit that's already inside of combat, it makes it harder for them to get more attacks into another unit by just moving a unit closer towards them, because then they would have to move closer towards that unit.
Gotcha. And that's where, as a Black Templars player, I can devout push a person and during the fight phase to prevent them from doing more damage to a singular unit.
Yeah.
Totally been using that wrong, or not fully utilized.
It's the fight phase is so complicated because it has so many different ways that you can like maneuver around the board to make it easier for you to cap points, kill objectives, and tag stuff. Yeah, it's so good. Love the fight phase.
Yeah. So while we're on the piling, or sorry, do you have something else? Something?
Oh no, I'm just saying it's great. Yeah. I feel like people. I mean, I feel like someone's intro army should probably be an army that like focuses on melee, because you learn more of the intricacies of the game. But I mean, everyone's different.
Yeah.
So while we're on the topic of piling in and consolidating, when should you use it versus not use it, or do it? I guess.
Yeah. So I agree that there are times when you shouldn't be piling in and shouldn't be consolidating, right? Like even though you can get the extra movement, it doesn't mean that you should always do it. because
Mhm.
if you pile in and consolidate closer to an enemy unit, right, that you know can kill you, you're just making their charge easier, right? It makes it harder, right? It's harder to deal with. But besides that, you should always be piling in and consolidating. You should always be saying when you make a charge, I am not touching base. And then that way you can surf around stuff. You can surf around that unit because when you do your first pile in, you surf, you get closer to the first model that you charged, right? Or the closest model to it. And during that, you can become equidistant between two different models. And then from there, you can choose between who you want to surf with afterwards. It's also a great way to get more attacks in by just doing that, by rotating
Mhm.
models around and saying, this is in, I'm not touching base. I'm going to surf around this. And now that we're equidistant, I'm going to surf around the other model and just get more people into the fight, just because it gets more people fighting. Jompy?
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
No, I mean you said everything.
Yeah. Oh, my bad.
And yeah,
No, it's perfect.
that's perfect.
Well, Jompy, what is the importance of piling and consolidating to you? Like, why do you like doing it?
For me, I mean, like we've mentioned, it's free movement. It's also just ways to get bodies where they need to be, especially like if we're fighting for an objective and
Mhm.
trying to get more models on the objective. Very very crucial. And also maybe you just wanna try to pile in consolidate into like a terrain feature to get maybe a cover bonus or get obscured,
Mhm.
stuff like that. If like you're going to be killing that unit, so yeah.
Definitely, yeah. And then also, if you have chaff, what I like to do is, if I have like throwaway chaff that I don't care about, and somebody multi-charged me, and I'm on an objective, right? A lot of people when they use interrupt, they use it so then they can kill the next unit, right? If I'm confident in like my other unit isn't going to die, I can interrupt with my cheap unit, the unit that's also in combat that's on an objective, and I could push it up and then have it touch base with my enemy, right? Like let's say that they're not on the objective yet, and their intention is after they're done fighting, they're gonna pile in and consolidate onto the objective to try and steal it from me. What you can do is that you can just interrupt if they did their sequence out of order, right? They charge like a key unit of yours that's stronger. They already dealt that damage. You can spend a 2 CP to interrupt, push your units towards him, so then you're touching base with them, because then that means that they can't pile in and consolidate at that point onto the objective because they're already the closest that they could possibly be to those models. So
Yep.
yeah, so you're basically just making it so then their plan is null and void because you're making it so then they can't get onto the objective because you've touched base with them. That's another great way to use interrupt when you're on an objective, is just to make it so then your opponent can't get free movement out of it.
Wow.
Yeah, prevents them from getting on the objective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could yeah, you could yeah, it's very I guess cheeky.
Yeah, it's just cheeky stuff that you
Yeah.
could do.
Yeah.
Very cheeky.
Nice tactic there. Is there any other tactics that you guys can think of when or tactics regarding interrupting in the fight phase or whatnot?
um I th- I don't know if this is correct or not, but I think that if you have an army that has fight first, from the way that it's read in counteroffensive, and the way that's read in core rules, I think that on your enemy's turn when they fight, you can use one of your fight first units or activate counteroffensive, and then after that, use one of your fight first units afterwards, so you can interrupt twice, basically.
Oh, that's cool.
I don't know if that's true or not. That might, it's like it, from what because I had this conversation before, and I don't I think it's like up in the air on whether the TO would allow it or not, but I think that is correct.
What I feel like what I would do in that situation is I would just fight it depends. I feel
Yeah.
like not knowing what the units are, but I feel like I would just fight the fight first unit first.
Yeah.
Chances are if it's a fight first unit, it's pretty good in melee.
Yeah.
Situational, obviously. Like if the other unit just happens to be Blade Guard vets, then yeah.
Mm-hmm. So that's fun. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Other stuff for
man.
interrupt. I can't think of anything else for interrupt that would be helpful besides those options. Obviously, you want to kill whatever is strongest.
Yeah. I guess there's some things that you can avoid doing.
Yeah.
I guess a mistake that I made when I was playing a lot was interrupting and attacking a unit that fought already.
Oh
Try to
yeah,
avoid
yeah.
that. Yeah,
Yeah, don't do
that's
that.
a big one.
I've
Don't do that.
done
Don't do
that.
that.
I've done that. Yeah.
Definitely that is something to avoid. What else is there? I already mentioned charging in with your
Mhm,
unit that you want to kill first.
mhm. I think that's something that we could talk about is heroic interventions.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah,
Mhm.
because like there's some good heroic intervention stuff, especially if you're Blood Angels. You can use your heroic interventions to then use that stratagem where every single attack has to go to that character. So like if they charge something like something super important like a dreadnought or your aggressors, something that you don't want to die, you can use your heroic intervention to get into combat. And then after that, you can spend your strat in order to make it so then all the attacks from the unit that you're in engagement with has to go into that character. So you kind of sacrifice a character in order to protect another unit.
I think it's called like Angel Sacrifice or something like that.
Yeah, angelic
Yeah.
sacrifice or something, which is pretty good. It's fun.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I played against that. It was so frustrating. I was like, let me kill this.
Come on, man.
Come on.
It's
You're
a
killing
literal
your
heroic.
characters.
Yeah,
Yeah.
literal heroic intervention.
Yeah. You can also use like things like base sizes, right? To avoid stuff from being charged. Let's say that you have stuff that wants to get, or you have your enemy that wants to charge a specific unit in your back line, right? What you can do is that you can push up a unit and kind of like block them off with how big your base sizes are for some things and make it harder for them to get closer to that unit to make that charge, right? You can do the same thing with characters as well. You can make them equidistant between like two key units, right? And have them put behind. So then they don't have a big enough gap to charge them or to charge that character without getting into combat with like your key units as well.
Yeah.
So that's
you want to make sure. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, you're a Space Wolves player, so you know how to do this more than I do.
Yeah, I was just gonna say you want to make sure you're like spaced out far enough. That way, if they do happen to kill that unit, they can't just pile into you.
Yeah.
Pile and consolidate into you. But yeah,
that's more about like screening and stuff, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Move blocking and stuff. I mean, like, if let's say you're using like a transport, you could like once you disembark from the transport, just use that transport or that vehicle to just move block and protect a unit from being charged.
Yes, the reliable Rhino.
Yeah.
Yes.
it still has a job.
Yeah, you still got a job, Rhino. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You got to get in there, get in the fight.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I think that's it. Do you have any other questions, Raph, for the fight phase or anything?
No, learned a lot. A lot of things.
All right.
So
all right, you're playing Saturday now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually have a game this Thursday. So, yeah.
Oh, nice.
Okay. All right.
Oh,
All right.
What do you play against? All right, we'll ask after.
No.
Yeah,
I
well,
wanna
what do you
know.
play against?
What are you playing against?
I'm gonna be. I think this one's Tyranids or Chaos Space Marines.
Ah.
Yeah.
If it's Tyranids, I can help you out, buddy. I can tell you what you need to kill. Anyways, thank you guys for checking out this episode of Chapter Tactics. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. If you guys liked it, make sure that you press like and subscribe on the Frontline Gaming Network. We will be back next week, and yeah, we'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.
Whoa. Bye.